Yeah, right. No, my so Jana is gone right now. So
Yeah.
it's just like this last week, it's just been me and the boys. She went back to Montana to go to a funeral. Her best friend's dad passed away recently. So she's just been there like helping out. It's just been like the boys and I, so it's just been a little bit chaotic. And I actually today's Saturday, so I slept in, thought I was sleeping in, and I just like it was like 7 o'clock. And so I've just been chugging coffee for the last 5 hours now. So
Oh my gosh. How many
yeah.
have you had?
Dude, I did. So I always I kickstart the day with a pour over, which like all the years I've been drinking coffee, I feel like caffeine after a while just had no effect on me.
Yeah.
But now that
Yeah.
I'm older, it does. So like a pour over will like, dude, I'll just be shaken after a pour over. But as soon as that wears off, it's just like the
Yeah.
it's just like the
It's a
trash
crash.
coffee that I just make in the pot and it just sits there all day. So I'm on like cup number four, like
Oh
three
my
after
gosh.
the initial caffeine bomb that the pour over is. But
That's excellent.
well, welcome everybody to the most recent episode of what is this? Dad Sumash. I'm here with my good friend Jake. Jake is kind enough to call in at 6 in the morning from the future in Australia because it's Saturday here and it's Sunday there. So does the future look any brighter over there on
Yes,
Sunday?
yes, it's pretty good. It's summer here, so yeah, it's super bright,
Yeah,
super
there you
hot. It's
go.
33 degrees, which is your like I don't know, 95 or something like that.
95 or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, here in Arizona, it was cold yesterday. It rained all day yesterday, but cold is like, 60 degrees here. So,
Yeah.
but Jake, I wanna so actually it's like a little backstory. Jake and I met, man, years ago. What was it? 2000, it must have been 2016, so almost 10 years ago. We met in Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
and that's I've talked about on the podcast before how when you just kind of randomly run into somebody that listens to the same kind of music that you do, there's like an instant connection. It's just like
Yeah.
nothing else matters. We can be
Yeah.
best friends. So that may have been like, the starting point, I guess, of our relationship, but obviously friendship grew um over the years. And definitely, it sucks that you and the family are so far away. I know
I
COVID kind of ruined
know.
the one chance, I
I
had to get over
know.
there and see you guys, and so now it's on me. Now I got to get over there. Um,
Yeah, you were supposed to come and do our wedding, me and my wife's wedding. That was the
I know.
plan, and then we had to, yeah, really change it up. We had like nobody come to our wedding. Like
Yeah,
there was 10 people.
man.
So
No,
yeah,
yeah, no gatherings over a certain amount, right? Couldn't break the law.
nothing. Nope, that's right.
I know. I will forever. I think that was the worst part of COVID for me. Was not going to Australia. Everything else was fine, but not going to Australia to see you guys was awful. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
tell me.
bleak.
I guess just fill us in a little bit, Jake, on who you are. Tell us about your family. Tell
Yeah.
fill us in. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure, man. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm super stoked to be, here chatting with you. It's been a long time.
has been.
Um, yeah. So yeah, we live in a little suburb in Melbourne, Australia, where there's a pretty good hardcore metal scene. It is growing and booming here. I work for a like a marketing tech agency these days, where I'm a project manager working on some pretty cool techie things. And in my spare time, I co-run a esports ministry as well, which is really, really awesome. Doing all sorts of Fortnite, Valorant, games, you name it. We're running that all for God's Kingdom, which is really fun. I am married to a wonderful woman, too good for me, Leilani. And we have a daughter, Kiyomi, as well, who is 2, she'll be 3 in a few months, and she is an absolute weapon. So, yeah, life's good,
Kiyomi
man.
is like probably one of the main reasons I keep social media is just so I can see the posts that you guys do. It's
She's
like a
nuts.
while back there was, I mean, it was things are viral for like a week nowadays, but there was like those one video, I think it was like this little teeny little like 2 or 3 year old Japanese girl that would sing songs and it kind of like went viral and I was like, it's
Uh-huh.
cute. but it's not Kiki cute. It's not like it's not as cute, man. She's adorable. I mean, just like she lights up like my entire day when I see videos of her. So, yeah,
Dude,
dude, beautiful family.
she doesn't like I wish I had the footage because I have like a video of her rocking out to a Kublai Khan
Oh
song.
man,
Like she's just headbanging.
that would
She's
be amazing.
hilarious.
That
Dude, I
would
gotta
be
find
amazing.
it. But like the kind of character she is, man, she'll just like we're having dinner and Lani will say something to her like, thanks for having dinner with me, Kiki. Love sitting here with you. And she just looks at mum and kind of makes this face like, let's just eat dinner, mama. Like,
Yeah, right.
all
Chill.
right, mum,
Yeah,
whatever.
right. Coming in hot, mom. Why don't you just calm down? All right. We,
Yeah,
we
why
have
don't you
dinner
just
every
chill
day.
out, mum? Yeah, that's
I
right.
love that she listens to that music because I remember like my boys when they were really little, like that age. I mean, because that's what I was listening to in the house. So, they want to be like dad. And so, like, they got
That's
really
right.
into it and they would headbang and stuff, but like, no longer. They'll tolerate it. But I'm like, did I ruin them by making them listen to it ahead of time? Like, should I have not made them listen to it? Because now are they just like, they want to rebel against dad. So they want to listen to something different. But I don't. I do. So Jack, our youngest, I'm convinced he would love going to hardcore shows because he just has
Yeah.
like so much energy, and I think he
Mm.
could hold his own in a pit. But he's like, nah, I don't want to go, Dad. I'm like, fine, I'll just keep going by
You
myself.
just gotta wait when they're like, I don't know about you, but I didn't really start loving metal scene until I was about 16 or 17. That's when, like, I mean, we didn't really have the ability to get into music like you can today with Spotify and all of that. I
Yeah,
mean, pretty much had to hear through like other mates that knew about it or stumble across something random
yeah.
and you were super lucky on MySpace or something like that.
Oh, for sure.
Um, but yeah, like I reckon they'll get into it when they sort of realize like the rap scene sucks and
Yeah, right. I know.
and
They gotta
they want
learn. Like,
something good
yeah, yeah.
about real music.
That's right. That's right. No, totally like I was kind of the same way. I think, growing up, like I liked grunge. Um, like I
For
listened
sure.
to a lot of like, I mean, I liked Nirvana, I liked Bush, I liked Soundgarden, I
Yeah,
liked
Foo
the Smashing
Fighters.
Pumpkins, liked a lot of those bands. But like all I
Mm,
had was the radio. So like the
mm.
radio would play that, and then it was like they'd play Corn or like Disturbed
That's
or
right.
something like that, and I just
Yeah,
always
yeah.
remember liking it but always wishing they would go a little bit further, like wishing they would,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
there'd be like a scream or they'd scream in the bridge or something like that. I'm like, I wish you would keep doing that. But then like my cousin would come visit, and he lived in a city where there was a hardcore scene, so he'd always like tell me about these bands, and that's how I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. Like
Yeah.
this is heavier. This is what I'm looking for, and that's kind of how I got into it. But
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how they turn out, because it's just weird to think like, because now like I collect records now just because I just go along. I'm a slave to trends, so I have all these records on my shelf now. um
I love
but it's
that.
funny to think that like, because when I was a kid, I'd go through like my dad's records, and it's like Steve Miller Band and like Steppenwolf and
The
stuff like that.
Beatles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And now my kids are gonna go through my records, and it's gonna be like, The Chariot and Knocked
Yeah.
Loose and all these.
Yes.
But that's what we're gonna be listening to in the old folks' home too.
You're
That's the thing
welcome.
that like kills me, is that it's gonna be on rotation at some point when we're like 90 sitting in an old folks' home.
Mm.
So
Oh man.
what have you been listening to lately? Like, what's at the top of your list
Ooh.
lately?
I think I heard one of your other podcasts that you were listening to Architect's new album. Dude, that is an absolute masterpiece.
It's
That is on rotation
perfect.
right now.
It's
It
perfect,
I
man.
I can't floor a single track. It
I
is
know.
actually that good.
I know. Yeah, I feel like architects have like they've got a couple of like some of the albums a while back. I really no, I'm not going to remember the names of any of their albums, but they had a couple for a while where it was just like home runs, and then they kind of like messed around with some different sounds and kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and they were kind of like it was all good, but this one is just it's it's perfect. I mean, it's already like I
Yeah.
can't get enough of it.
Yeah. I know that everybody really likes Seeing Red and Curse. Like I know that
Yeah,
those are like the two pop. I really like Whiplash.
I
Like a
do too.
lot.
I do
Dude, that
too.
song is it for me.
Yeah,
Like it gives me goosebumps every time I listen to it.
exactly. That's so funny you say that because I was just like getting ready for the day and I had that song came on and it's the end. Like the end for me when you think it's done and then it comes
Yeah.
back. It's just I don't know. The whole album is it's got it's this like the clean vocals are great. I feel like I can be like hit
Yeah.
or miss with clean vocals. Sometimes I'm like, but the clean vocals are perfect. It's heavy enough, like it's gnarly enough. It's
Yep.
yeah, it's what is it? It's March. It may already be album of the year. I can't. It's I'm gonna be hard
Ah,
pressed to
yeah. I
hear
don't
another
know
one.
who's gonna do it. I
I
don't know
know.
who's
I
gonna do it.
thought so Spirit Box. Do you listen to a lot of Spirit
Oh
Box?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Spirit Box. Yeah,
So
she's
their album
amazing, man.
came out yesterday, their new album. I guess 2 days ago for you. And it's really good. Like I don't
Mm.
want anybody to like take me the wrong way. It's really good. It's just it's not quite as good as Architects. I thought it was going to give them a run for their money, but it's not quite as good, at least in my opinion, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if I've forgotten the lead singer's name. What's her name? She's been doing like
Courtney,
yeah, Courtney.
yeah.
She's been doing a lot of stuff with like some pop artists recently,
Yeah, yeah,
and
like
I
Megan
kind
Thee
of
Stallion.
yeah, oh yeah, and rappers and stuff like that. And I kind of wondered if there'd been some influence there because it
Yeah.
doesn't. It sounds different to me because I really liked Spirit Box, and I don't want to be one of those guys. It's like, oh, I used to like their OG stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
but like, I don't know, it's different to me, and it's not. I don't know. It feels different, so I'm not super in love with it, but
Yeah.
like it's still good. Like it's still Spirit Box. I still love
Yeah.
them. I kind of am in favor of whatever they're doing, but yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's not up there for me. I reckon maybe Exhibition of Prowess from Kublai Khan's just dude. It's
Brutal.
like it feels like the epitome of like I don't want to say it's dad rock. I don't want to do it to it like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But like there's something so primal about it that just
Yeah.
makes me like I feel like I'm more of a man when I listen
Oh,
to it. So,
100%. Yeah. Well, it's because like they're from Texas too. So they're just like
yeah,
these like good old boys from Texas that go to the
that's it.
gym. Like I follow the vocalist from Kublai Khan on Instagram and he's just posting pictures of him hanging out with like his dad and his uncle, just like these old guys in overalls and stuff. I don't know. There's
Dude,
just
man.
it's
He's just one of the
there.
boys.
He is, yeah, for sure. They're on my list of bands that's like I have to see them. There's a lot of bands that like come through here. I'm like I don't have to see them, but I'm gonna go see them because it's fun.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like I need to see them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I'll die in a pit on a Kublai Khan show.
Oh, dude,
Like
for
I'm happy
sure.
with that. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I go. I've died a happy man.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Any good shows lately? Have you been to any good ones? Or has it been a
Dude,
while?
I'll be honest. I haven't been to one since before we met. Well, probably the year that I came to
Yeah.
Kona. The reason for that is the gigs here really took a nosedive for a while, and then they've made like a really triumphant
Yeah,
comeback.
yeah.
Um, but I actually have zero friends here that like the same music as I
Yeah.
do, and so I don't. Like I would love to go, but I really don't want to go by myself. Like it feels
Yeah.
a bit
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like to enjoy this music with other people. Like one of my closest mates who does love this as well lives in Japan now. Otherwise, he
Yeah,
would
yeah.
totally come with me. But yeah, most of my friends that I see sort of like on a weekly basis, they can't stand this music, which
Yeah.
bums me out. But
No, I
it
hear
means we're
you.
not as close. But
Yeah. No, I'm kind of a little bit the same here. Like I've just recently started to get to know some of the guys that like I recognize, from the venue and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
But just like on a pretty like I don't know, we recognize each other. But it's not like, really good friends. Um my friend Jesse that was on, he sent me a picture. They went to um the same counterparts and like Pain of Truth and these other bands that came through here. We're in California the next night, and he's got like six dudes that hang out with him, and they all have like this spreadsheet where they like plan out shows that they're gonna go to and stuff
Oh,
like that.
that's
And so I'm like, that's what I want. And I always a little sad
yeah.
because like when I go to shows, because I go to a lot of shows by myself. I'm like, man, why did I wait so long to move here? But I think it'll happen. I'll start meeting some dudes, hopefully. Um,
Yeah, man.
maybe I'll just start, the ones that even don't like it, I'll just drag them along. That's what I used to do when I
Yes.
lived in Montana. Is I just like, you got to come with me. I know you're gonna hate it, but
Just come to one. Just come to one.
exactly, just experience it. But
Yeah.
no, that's awesome. Um, so, I mean, a lot of, we talk about music a lot on the podcast. We talk a lot of times too, I'll kind of shift gears and chat a little bit about, what it's like to be a dad, what it's like to be a husband, the
Yeah.
joys that come with that, the struggles that come with that. Um, how long you and Lonnie have been married now for 5 years, almost
Yeah,
five?
5 years. Yep.
Five? Okay.
Nearly, yeah, 5 years this year. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I've been a dad for almost three.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, just the highs, the lows, the lessons you've learned. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I spoke a little bit about Kiki earlier and the kind of personality. She's 99% Leilani, by the way.
yeah,
Which is just it's funny and it's like it's quite a I don't know, man. I feel like you could make up the whole TikTok channel dedicated to this little girl.
100%.
She's
I'm
just
waiting
hilarious.
for it actually.
Yeah, yeah. Alani's toyed with the idea, but
Oh man.
no, I mean, look, my journey with being a dad and being yeah, a husband has been a pretty interesting one. Those that have known my journey have known that it's been, pretty turbulent with some mental health stuff. Before the reason that I came out to Kona was because of mental health, like really sort of seeking and sort of seeing where I've, really been, yeah, gone through a lot and trying to figure out what I stand for, who I am, what I
Yeah,
believe, and all that sort of stuff, and really just sort of gutting every bit of my life. And I think that journey sort of spans across every uh life stage that you go through too, like whether you're, as an individual without any significant others or dependents. And then I think you do that too when you first get married and sort of realize that who you are has to change a little bit because you're not by yourself, you're actually paired with somebody else, like you're one with somebody else now.
yeah,
And then on top of that, like I think the next really huge part of that is like when you have your first kid, like it was just such a beautiful moment. Like I remember, you know, being handed Kiki first because we had a lot of complications in the hospital. And like Lani was just sort of not in a position to hold Kiki for the first time. So I was the first person to do that and feeling like this incredible sense of like, I don't even know you yet.
yeah,
I don't even know you, but I would die for you.
yeah,
And this incredible sense of like, um, yeah, like a really firm understanding of like, or even just a small percentage of just like how God really feels about us, which is really cool,
yeah,
and how tremendous that felt. But when we took her home, like after the we were in the hospital for a few days and got home, that really changed because Kiki was one of these kids that although she slept pretty good for the most part, she didn't eat.
mm,
Like she couldn't eat properly, and she wouldn't be able to hold the food down very well, or she would be in incredible pain while eating. And so
yeah, yeah,
the cries, man, like she was not a quiet baby. She was really loud, and I just remember times where she was just crying so much and so hard. I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
yeah,
And I had this like story with some of my friends where um, who who had kids of their own or didn't know. It was interesting seeing their responses to this, but I felt like this need to be extremely honest.
yeah,
Like I don't wear my feelings very well. Like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and it's really hard for me to like show a poker face. Like you just don't play poker with me. Like you'll know what's going on
yeah, yeah,
immediately.
yeah,
And I just remember sort of saying like, like there's times where she was screaming where I was like, I like this feels like an intruder, and it feels like it's, uh, you know, how do I say it? Like something that's like interrupting me and my wife, causing my wife a lot of pain. Like,
Yeah.
like I'd punt this baby out the window type of thing. Like there's just
Yeah.
moments where you just felt like I understood
Yeah.
for a brief moment why somebody, never condoning this, but
Yeah.
ever, I think it's a horrible thing, but why someone would, you know, go so nuts and shake a baby. Like I understood for a moment there
Yeah.
why somebody would feel that way or
Yeah.
why a dad would leave.
Yeah.
Now, I think that those are, like those are obviously horrible things. And so when I
Yeah.
talked about that, outwardly, people would be like, how could you say that? I was like, well, no, don't miss what I'm saying.
Right. Right.
Obviously, I would never say that that's an okay thing, but I understood from an emotional and mental point of view how people broke and people
Yeah.
got to that point because there's moments where it's just really so hard. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was one of those things where I really had to like test what kind of person that I was and really, well, it tested what kind of person I was and really got me to think about like what I actually wanted in a way that, you can't prepare in any kind of way. So it was really like really hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, just having some good people in your corner that understand that and don't condone obviously what you're saying in any sense, but like can at least get on your level and sort of say, hey, look, and this is not an easy journey, but a dad and a father and a real man is characterized by rocking up, not by, being overtaken by those
Yeah.
emotions. And so it's been that journey, ever
Yeah.
since. It's just sort of like how in control of it am I when, I'm feeling a certain way and who do I talk to and how do I
Yeah.
talk about it?
Yeah. No, that's yeah, great. I think there's a few things I was thinking about while you were saying that, obviously like, postpartum depression is a thing, with a lot of times with moms, obviously. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of research and there's a lot of science as to why that's happening. Your body is, regulating
Mm.
again and, coming through this traumatic hormonal experience of giving birth. And it's a real thing. But I think you're right. I think there's something to be said for, as well, like dads can go through stuff like that. And being brutally honest about that stuff, I think that brings up a good point because I think a lot of times, even in like my own mental health journey and, things that I've, gone through, learned through therapy or just like kind of discovering who I really am and stuff like that is a lot of times, like if somebody comes to, or like if I would come to somebody, or let's say like my wife, or if you were to come to me, say like, hey man,
Mm.
like I got to be honest, I'm feeling this way. I think the
Mm.
the gut reaction a lot of times as people is like, okay, well, you're feeling that way. That's wrong. I need to convince you to not feel that way
Yeah,
because those
that's right.
feelings are wrong. So it's like, I'll, try to tell you like, oh, but your daughter is amazing. Your family is
Mm.
beautiful. You gotta love her. Like you can't feel that way, stuff like that. And I think what happens a lot is like our knee-jerk reaction is let's try to just like erase those feelings and pretend like they
Yeah.
don't exist. And
Yeah.
what's helped me a lot is just recognizing like, okay, those feelings are real. They might be totally wrong. And a lot of times they are, or they're not
Mm.
grounded in reality, or they're not, whatever it is, but they are real. The feelings themselves
Yeah.
are real. And I think sometimes when you can at least accept that, then it's like, okay, they're real. Let's just wait for like, the waves to kind of crash over me and work through these feelings, but not, I think you start spinning your tires when you're just like, okay, well, I gotta erase those feelings and convince myself
Mm.
that they're not real. I think a lot of times that does more harm than good. Or at the very most, it just doesn't do anything helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of that too is like as guys we have this innate desire to fix everything.
Yep.
And I think I,
100%.
I actually think that it's a really good thing for the most part. Women always hate it. Like well, I can't say for all women, but like my wife, for example, hates it. Like, she's just like, stop trying to fix everything,
Yep.
just sit and listen. And I
Yep.
think there's some validity to that. Like, I mean, when you're sort of feeling like that sort of stuff, and there isn't always like this a clear and obvious solution. Sometimes it's just nice to vocalize it. Like I'm an
Yeah.
extremely big advocate for verbally processing. Like, it's kind of like trying on a jacket to see if it
Yeah.
fits and then taking it off. 'Cause not everything that you say or not everything that comes out of your mouth is actually a true reflection of what you
Yeah.
believe. And so it's kind of important to have that imagery, at least for me, to sort of say, hang on, like I'm going to vocalize this and almost preface that. Like I just want to vocalize this. This isn't really a reflection of, what I actually believe at my heart, but maybe
Yeah.
just how I feel in the moment. Let me just try this on with you and you can tell me if it's garbage or not, and I can take it back off and, try
Yeah.
something else. But essentially it's sort of like coming to this point of just like knowing that you can vocalize things in a safe environment
Yes.
and express yourself without being judged for that expression. And also on top of that, not having somebody go, "Oh no, that's a horrible feeling. How could you possibly say that?" I'm just like,
Yes.
"Well, hang on. I'm not like with most things. Like if you ever talk about any political thing, and I hate politics,
Sure. Yeah.
it's kind of like I'll say something and to sort of gauge what the room's reaction is, with
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and sort of, sort of see. And again, it may not be a true reflection of what I believe, but at least you kind of know like what the room is like and what you're sort of saying, how that's felt amongst others. And so yeah, I think it's important to have people that are just prepared to listen to what you have to say
Yeah.
without any sort of idea of like, oh, this marks you for being this kind of a person, or you're a weak dad for saying that, or
Yeah. Yeah.
you've got a stupid political opinion, or you've got a bad take. Like we're always judged by our first words, and
Yeah.
I don't think that that's, I think that's incredibly unfair, especially for those of us who are vocal, verbal processors that need to figure out, with people that care about us, how we feel. And so a lot of the time, like when it came to this about being a dad or mental health or whatever, I felt extremely misunderstood
Yeah.
by a lot of people and people who I thought were I'm close with. And I think that that still happens. But I think that aside, it's good to know that you have like a handful of people that just go, all right, just let him do
Yeah.
his thing,
Yeah.
and he'll come to.
No, for sure. And I think that's such an important thing on a personal level, but also like with your spouse as well. I think that was something that was
Yeah.
really helpful for me because, like if my wife and I were going through something tough and she would, vocalize something, it is. And I think as a guy, I'm like, okay, well, you feel that way. That's wrong. Simple. I'll just convince you to
Yeah.
not feel that way anymore and everything's going to be fine. And that's the last
Yeah.
thing in the world that she wants. And I think I had another guy that was talking to me the other day, and his brother is going through kind of like a rough patch in his marriage. And I was like, look, man, I said, I know like a lot of times, when it comes to marriage or relationships, it's like, okay, you got to communicate. That's one thing. And then you got to communicate expectations. And I think both of those things are great. But I think in that communication and in communicating expectations with each other, you have to have the freedom to communicate those feelings that you're feeling
Mm.
in a safe space and know that your spouse isn't just going to walk out on you
Yeah, that's
because
right.
you feel that way. It's like, look, I got to
Yeah.
have this bubble where I can put these things out there and know that you're just going to listen and accept that, like, even though those feelings may be wrong, I get that you're
Yeah.
feeling that. I'm going to let you feel it and just, I'll be here, you know, when you kind of come back around or whatever. I think having
Yeah.
that space to do that is important.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, and I think one of the tricky parts is like, especially as guys, I think I've seen this a lot on social media before, but not like that I pay a huge amount of attention, but it's just something that I thought was interesting was men sort of feel like this burden of responsibility when they do. When they start talking about how they feel about things, then they have to be concerned with how it makes somebody else feel and how
Yeah.
what the overflow is after that. And I sort of noticed that. Like I think early on in my marriage, like I sort of realized like, hey, I can't just sort of dump everything that I want. Into my wife's hands or into her lap or whatever, and expect that she's not gonna wear that with me in
Yeah.
some sort of way. And so there was like a level of responsibility that I felt to sort of just not, I don't want to say temper what I was saying, but just like be a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
And she would sort of say, no, I want you to, just be, unapologetically you and say whatever you want. But I sort of realized like, oh, maybe as a man, I have a little bit more responsibility to my wife's mental health and all that sort of stuff. And whatever I say and whatever I feel may actually impact that for her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think as guys, we have this really weird space to be in, and we really have to toe the line. And our wives have to be prepared to go on that journey with us to sort of say they're going to understand that we're going to feel a certain way and that we are going to give them maybe uh, 80% of how we feel about a certain topic and then
Yeah.
over time, it ends up being 85, 90% as they learn who we are and don't necessarily allow what we're saying to impact them. But I think to a certain degree it always will. And so towing that line can just be really, really difficult. Maybe there's people out there that sort of disagree with that. They have a relationship with their wife or that they can just be unapologetically themselves, or maybe they don't have those sort of crazy sort of emotions or
Yeah.
feelings or
Yeah.
thoughts about a said topic. But I think at a certain point, we kind of have to sort of say like, at least for me anyway, like maybe I won't say that thing. Maybe I'll deal with that one on my own. And
Yeah.
it can put you on an island sometimes.
Yeah.
It can certainly make you feel a little bit alone when you go, oh, I don't want this crazy thought or this crazy feeling to impact my wife. I
Yep.
recognize like previously I'd said something and I made her cry because she's worried about me or she's
Yeah.
worried about what I'm thinking. And oftentimes, like just for context, it's like I'll have a pretty negative view of myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I feel some kind of way, like I'm feeling really insecure as an individual right now. This is how I feel. And, like the wives that love us, they're just like, what I think you're gold. I think you're amazing. How could you say that about yourself? And they're like crying that, feeling sad
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, that you feel that way about yourself. You're just like, no, like, oh man, I didn't want you to, no, don't forget it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, like,
Exactly. Exactly. No, and you, I think, hit on a couple of things that are really big there. One, like you said, we do carry this weight. Like I literally, a few weeks ago was telling Jan I was going through this, just like this a valley. It's like peaks and valleys. Some weeks I'm great.
yeah,
Some
that's
weeks
right.
it's just like I cannot shake this. And it's like there's no reason
Yeah.
for me to feel this way. At least I feel like, look around at everything that I have in my life. Like there's no reason to feel this
Yeah,
way. But
exactly.
then I remember telling her like the most frustrating thing is I don't have time for this. Like I don't have time to feel
Mm-mm.
this way because the kids have sports. Like you got stuff going on. Like we have things to deal with. I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
But I think so. Like a little backstory too. Like I had a therapist that I was seeing before we made this move, and then we moved here to Arizona, and I was just kind of floating around without somebody to talk to really. And like you said, some people may just have this relationship where it's like you can talk about anything and it doesn't really bother. It just slides right off your spouse, but that's not how it is with Jana and I. Like
Mm-mm.
if I at 100% just dump everything on her, at a certain point that's going to start to wear her down and she's going to be sweet
Yeah.
about it and understanding about it, but I'm going to be able to see that. But I'm thankful because she was like, "Look, you got to talk to somebody, like I'm
Yeah,
always
yeah.
going to be here for you to talk to, but she's like, you got to have some sort of another outlet,
Yeah.
too." And so that's a lot of times that's my encouragement to guys too is like if you can find professional help like a certified
Yep.
therapist to talk to, by all means do it. If you've got
Mm.
a friend that you can talk to, do it. Sometimes I think sometimes you got to have that other outlet, to just like you said, don't go 100%, find somebody that you can give like 15% of it to, and then you're only hitting your wife with like 85% of it, or something like that. But at least she can handle it and you're not just overwhelming, her day after day. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's
that's
good
it.
stuff,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, that's precisely right. Like yeah, I can't advocate enough for going and speaking to somebody like on a professional capacity. I know that stuff's like super expensive,
Yeah.
but that the value in your life is way more than the money is
Yeah.
worth. So
Yeah. No, I agree.
definitely huge
I
props to that.
definitely agree. It's funny too because I've kind of found that, in the times where I feel like I'm doing really great, I don't, I won't schedule anything or I won't do anything, or I'll sit with like my therapist and be like, I don't know, man, everything,'s fine. I don't know what else to talk about. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then then I just won't go or I won't, call or won't set anything up on a regular basis. And then all of a sudden
Mm,
I'll just like hit this brick wall of depression or something like that. And then I'm like
yeah.
floundering. And then I try to schedule. And it's like I can't get in for 2 weeks. So I think even just this idea of, if you're able to have like a regular, even like weekly, whether it's with a therapist or with somebody that you can talk to, it's like another guy or something like that that you can
Yeah.
confide in. Just having that on a weekly basis to have, somebody there in the good times and just to celebrate when things are good. But if things are
Yeah.
starting to get bad, it's like, that's okay. I've got like this lighthouse. I know on Wednesday morning I'm going to talk with so and so, and I can
Yeah.
bring this to them and I'm not going to be scrambling, when all of a sudden I'm drowning in this and I don't know, who to reach out to.
Yeah, that's right. And I think part of the responsibility that to that too, like to going ahead and doing that is not just your wife, and how that impacts her, but actually one of the things I forgot to mention before that I sort of realized like, hey, I need to fix something here is the energy that it brings in the house as well. Like I think my daughter
Mm,
began to sort of feel that. I remember there was a time where I felt particularly awful. I had a really bad day at work. There were some things that were going pretty negatively with the ministry that I was doing was just like really crushing me. It was super, super stressful. As you
yeah.
can imagine, running events can be
Yeah.
pretty brutal sometimes. And there was just a bunch of stuff that was happening in my headspace as well. I think it was the time at the time my grandfather had passed away, and like everything was just like all at once. And I just remember sitting on the bed and like just being completely dejected and depressed and all of that sort of stuff. And my daughter came over and I wasn't crying or anything like that. I was just sort of sitting with a fairly, sort of slumped uh posture and demeanor on my face, and she just sat next to me and she got up on the bed, sat next to me, put her head on my arm and just goes, are you okay? Like, are you
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Dada? And I just remember going, oh, I'm okay, Kiki, and all that sort of stuff. And she goes, well, I think you're the best in the whole world, Dada. And I just remember just like starting bawling her
Yep.
eye out, like my eyes out. And she just goes, oh no, like, what have I done? Like,
Then what did they do?
yeah, I know. She's like, oh no, she's crying. What did I say? And
Man.
I just remember sort of just grabbing her and just really thanking her and like giving her a really big kiss. And I just like from that moment, I just sort of realized like the Lord actually puts the, can put children in our lives, like, to as a how do I put it? Like as an entity, as a being outside of their physical form in a way to
Mm.
really uplift our spirits. Like they are the
Yeah.
thing that cancel out the negativity in our
Yeah.
household. And
Yeah.
I know that if I have a really hard day at work, I come in that house and she's like, oh my gosh, Dad's
Yeah.
home. Like, and she freaks out that I'm home.
Yeah.
And it just changes everything. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
energy. I'm not really much of a like an energy or vibe guy, but like is something that happens in
Yeah.
another plane of existence that really alters how you feel. And like, I just sort of realized from that moment, she was like, I think that you're the best. I
Yeah.
think that you're the most amazing dad. It doesn't really matter in that moment how you feel about yourself all the time. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be so self-focused
Yeah.
that the
Yes.
people around you think that you are absolutely the most incredible person on the
Yeah.
planet. And it is important for us to hear it, but to also remember those things.
Yeah.
And one of the most impactful things that I think I ever heard, and I hope I get this quote right, I'll probably stuff it up, but it's to the effect of like, as as individuals, our greatest, or as sorry, as dads, our greatest task isn't with being or sorry, not a greatest task. The biggest obstacle that we face is not being like this super huge macho guy
Yeah.
doing everything perfectly. The thing that we actually struggle to do the most is remember our wins.
Yeah.
And we really do. It's like, remember how you felt when you felt good. Remember how you felt when somebody praised you. Remember that because
Yeah.
in the long life of being a dad, of being a husband, we are so prone to
Yeah.
forgetting. Um, often characterized by the negative feelings and the negative experiences that we have.
Yeah, no, that's so good, man. And I think a lot of that has to do with, the fact that we want to be problem solvers and we almost make that our identity. And so it's like
Yeah.
if we're not, if I'm not fixing a problem, then it's like I gotta go find a problem to fix. And a lot of times we just find those problems in ourselves. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess like, everybody is good. Let me do a check and let me figure out what's wrong with me and then figure out, what I can do to fix that. And it's like, well, I don't want to get a big head or I don't want to
Yeah.
miss, these problems that might be coming because I'm too focused on like the good things. And you're right. I think we
Yeah.
fight to feel like we did a good job because it's like, well, don't get complacent
Yeah.
or don't get
Yep.
lazy or whatever. Or just waiting for the other shoe to drop or something like that. But I think there's a lot of value in just like kind of sitting back and relaxing and enjoying the blessings of
Yeah.
life too, and not just
Yeah.
struggling.
Yeah, and I think we often get on this negative or pessimistic view, and allow it to masquerade as being a realist. When I think
Yes,
that that's, dude, I
100%.
think that this it's so garbage. Like I often do that, and my wife will catch me out. I'm like, oh, I'm just being realistic. I'm just being realistic, and
Yeah,
she's like, no, you're not. You're
yeah,
literally being you're protecting yourself
yep,
and your emotions and how you feel, and you're protecting yourself from any possible outcome here because you're fearful of having a negative
yep,
experience. And so you say, oh, this is probably going to happen, or this is, this
yep,
negative thing is probably going to happen. You're classifying it as being realistic when
yeah,
really all you're doing is just defending yourself, protecting yourself,
yep,
and thinking there's a level of superiority. Like it's actually quite an arrogant thing to do to
yeah,
sort of say, oh, I have the right take on this.
yeah,
Anybody that's optimistic about this thing is just being blind. How
yeah. They're
arrogant. And I
naive.
do that
Yeah,
I
yep,
do it all the time, and
yep.
I shouldn't. Like it's awful.
I can be exactly the same way, man, because any situation that arises, like when we first moved, for example, like our family moving to Arizona where we're at now was such a huge thing, man. And we're so grateful
Yeah.
to be here. And there's so many just like amazing aspects of this place and where we live now. And the home we were able to get, all these things. And the first couple of weeks, I like was hit with some of the worst depression I had had in a long time, but it was because
Mm.
all I could think about was all of the things that could happen to make it all fall apart. It's like
Yeah.
but it's almost like I think that if I can go through the worst case scenario, think about how it's going to happen, then at least it can't surprise me. Then at least I'm prepared for it. Like I've already
Yeah.
emotionally dealt with it because I'm already
Yeah.
expecting it to happen. And it's just such a constricting way to live. It is such a paralyzing way to live. And
Yeah.
you completely miss out on all the amazing things that are happening around you because you're just like, just no, I don't want to get comfortable because it's going to fall apart and I need to be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's depressing. It's a depressing way to
Yeah.
live, man.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think we protect that. We try to protect ourselves or prepare ourselves. We think by going, oh, if I think about this in this way, or if I um, just be quote unquote realistic about this
Yeah.
thing, then really what I'm doing is being prepared for when
Yeah.
things just turn badly. And we do this prepared for the worst type of thing when really we're robbing ourselves from the immediate
Yeah.
joy of the situation. And
Yep.
I do that with everything. Like I catastrophize every single situation. It's something that I'd like, I'll be super honest. Like I probably need to go and find another professional, to speak to because I find myself catastrophizing
Yeah.
everything. So like
Yeah.
last night even, I was like thinking about the worst possible thing that could ever happen in my life. What would I do if
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
lost my wife and daughter? And I'm
Yeah.
like, why am I thinking about that? Like
Exactly.
I actually had this like really hard talk with myself and I said, I don't want you to think about this ever again because there
Yeah.
is nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can prepare for by thinking about this. That
Yeah.
is not something that you can ever prepare for. And
Yeah.
there's no point in you thinking about what you would do if that happened.
Yeah.
Like you're wasting your time, you're wasting any positive space that you have, you're wasting your potential sleep. You are
Yep.
not benefiting your life one moment by thinking about that. And I think that that actually is something that we need to do on a regular basis because it doesn't even have to be about like catastrophizing something like, to that extent. It can just be like, oh man, like this and this happened at work. How do I prevent that from happening again when they're like these one-time situations? It's about being able to distinguish what those things are. But I think we can do that a lot on a lot of different levels. Like, oh, what if this outcome occurs on this project that I'm working on for instance, rather than
Yeah.
sort of saying, no, like, I'm really enjoying my work. I'm just going to
Yeah.
continue going on with it just because somebody, I had a bad experience with a client. Sure, you can learn from it, but doesn't mean that you need to like put your walls up with every other client that you have
Yeah.
that's going
Yeah.
to have a bad experience. So I mean, I think thinking about how we train ourselves to think about things and in a way redo the neural pathways that we have in our head is actually a really important thing. Like,
Yep.
check and think about what you're thinking. Um, is if you are paying attention to what you're thinking about rather than just letting the auto tape, the
Yep.
autoplay happening.
Yep.
I think we can really seriously alter the way that we think about things. And overall, I think it makes us much more like desirable people to be around. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
people want to be around people who are, these realists, these quote unquote, because you're just
Yeah.
like, all you really are is just like a party pooper and a vibe killer.
Oh
That's all you
yeah.
are, really.
Dude, the ultimate, like the highest evolved form of a realist is like doomsday preppers. And like that's never fun to be around. Like,
Dude, they're the worst.
dude, seriously. Like, oh, cool. You have a bus buried in your backyard with MREs. Like, congratulations. I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of baked beans in your backyard. Why is that?
Yeah, can't wait. Yum. I'd rather, I'm just between like having to live in your bunker with you and a bunch of baked beans, dude. I'm just gonna like open my arms to the atomic bomb. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
just take me. I can't do
Yeah, I
it.
know. If that's all I've got, I'm good. Like, just send
Yeah,
me.
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for solidifying that for me though. Awesome. Dude, this has been a ton of fun. I appreciate you hopping on
Of
and
course, man. Thank
chatting
you for
for a
having me.
bit. Yeah, cool. I especially I appreciate you sharing, your story, some of your struggles. I know like as you were talking, I was like there's all these other things that kept popping up. So we may have to do like a follow-up conversation one of these days too.
Yeah,
And
for
just do
sure.
another episode. But yeah, cool. Well, thanks, Jake. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time.